amazing. There's an amazing story that took place that we're told about in the Talmud Bavli. It's amazing what took place, what happened, and it's amazing that it's written for all the generations to be learned in the Talmud. Not only did it take place, but it's written here. That's why you have the sheets to see it. Otherwise, you wouldn't believe maybe that it's... Maybe I'm making this up. So I think you see here how crucial the centrality, the superiority of Eretz Yisrael is, to what length and what extent that our sages went to ensure that it's not forgotten, that centrality, the uniqueness of Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara at the end of Brachot, almost at the end, page 63, there's, like I said, a story of a great rabbi. We're talking about the third generation after the destruction of the temple, actually after the destruction of Beitar, after the temple was destroyed, but also Beitar, and Rabbi Akiva was killed. And this rabbi was left as one of the giants of the generation. Jerusalem was closed to the Jews. Hadrian, Roman emperor, made all these decrees that Jews couldn't study Torah. And he saw as the only possibility to continue Judaism and Torah study that he went to make a yeshiva outside of Eretz Yisrael, to found some central study of that we can't learn in Eretz Yisrael. So we'll go out of Israel to continue the study, to enable perpetuate the Torah, even in this situation, and make it a center for, as we'll see, even for the, the rabbinic decisions and discussion and legislation that will come out of Bavel. So we'll see what he writes now. We'll see the story now. K'sheyarad Chanina ben Achi Rabbi Yeshua the Gola. When this Rabbi Chanina, the son of Rabbi Yeshua's brother, right, the nephew of Yeshua, he went down to exile. He would now do this calculation, the establishing of the month outside of Eretz Yisrael, which is to be done only in Eretz Yisrael. The intercalation of what's called the establishment, performing of the specially adding the new month. This is supposed to be done in Eretz Yisrael. It says in Barim chapter 12 that you should in his dwelling place you shall seek him. In other words, and the dwelling place of God, that's in Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim. There should be done this counting and performing of making this new month, right? Every Nisan has to come out in the season of Aviv, the spring. But there's a differentiation almost of 10 days between the lunar calendar and the solar calendar. So there has to be added an additional Adar to make sure that it stays indeed the leap year. This extra Adar has to be added. So now we have it already calculated by Hillel as the second Hillel, the Cain, already pre-established for the future generations till the Messianic era. Pre-made all the calculations and knowing when we add 7 Adars 7 leap years every 19. But here this rabbi went out and did these intercalation of the months outside of Israel, which, like I said, it's supposed to be done only in Eretz Yisrael. So it says, Shagru acharav shnei talmidei chachamim. The rabbis in Eretz Yisrael sent after him 2 scholars to chastise him, to tell him what he's doing. This is improper. Who were they? Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar, ben Benoshel Zechariah ben Kabuta. One of them was Yossi ben Kippar, and the other was the son of a descendant of Zechariah ben Kabuta. This is the story. The rabbis in Eretz Yisrael send these 2 rabbis to this rabbi that went down to the exile and is doing this performance of what should be done by the Sanhedrin in the court in Yerushalayim. He's continued, now we have I'm doing it now in Bavel. Kevan Shirautam, since he saw them, Amar lehem lama batem, he says, what are you doing here? Rabbi, scholars of Eretz Yisrael, what did you do to come to my yeshiva? Amru lo lilmod Torah banu. We came to learn Torah by you. It's a big praise. right? To come to learn Torah. We came out of Eretz Yisrael to learn Torah in your yeshiva in Bavel, in Chutz La'aretz here. It was a great praise, and as we'll see, this was part of the plan. They wanted to gain his trust and his respect. Here we are, we're Eretz Yisrael, we're Zionist people, and we came to Bavel to learn by you. And then he would come to praise them, and then he wouldn't be able to disparage them later, when what takes place later, when they come to criticize him, they would already be elevated and praised. He won't be able to pull them down, and now they can get their message across to the nation to stop following him, to go after this legislation that he's doing outside of Eretz Yisrael. It's indeed what took place. But so far, he says, we came to learn Torah by you. So indeed, the plan unfolds proper as they prepared. So he announced upon them, right? They praised him that we came to learn Torah. Your yeshiva is so important. We came to learn Torah by you. So he indeed praises them. Wow, these people are giants of the generation. And their forefathers served in the temple, as it says. We learned in the Mishnah. It says, "Zachariah ben Kabutal Omer Harbei Pamim Kariti Lifanav B'Sefer Daniel." Right, there's the Mishnah that says in Yoma that Zachariah ben Kabutal was this. Used to read in front of the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen, on Yom Kippur nights, that they should stay awake. Shouldn't be any problems. So he should stay awake the whole night. They used to read him. If he didn't know about to read himself, they would read in front of him interesting things to keep him awake. And the Mishnah testifies that Zechariah ben Kabutal used to read in front of him Daniel, the prophecies used to read in front of him, and to keep him awake. So he says this son, this descendant of Zechariah ben Kabutal, these great rabbis, you see their grandfather, their ancestors served in the Beit HaMikdash, they're holy people, they're righteous people, they're very, very lofty people. And then starts this amazing this story of what they start to do to him. So now they praised him, so to speak, and then he praises them, puts them up in the front. Wow, these are great rabbis visiting from Eretz Yisrael, coming to learn by us. And then all of a sudden, he makes these legislations that it's certain thing is impure, and they would say the opposite. It's tahor, it's pure. Everything he said, they said the opposite. They put up a notice, maybe in this legal legislation by the Rabbi Hananiah. It's impure, and they put up a thing. No, it's not. It's a tahor. Who ser? He says something's forbidden. They say no, it's mutar. It's allowed. Everything he says, they say the opposite. Imagine what's going on here. Here is this conflict of these great rabbis come from Eretz Yisrael, and everything the rabbi says, their rabbi says, they say the opposite. So he chriz aleim, anashim alalu shel shavhem, shel tohem. So he gets up, Rabbi Chanina, okay? These rabbis are foolish, they're meaningless, they're worthless. To, shav, to, they're empty. Don't listen to them. What I'm telling you is right. All this, they're saying the opposite opinion. They're not wise scholars. Mulo, Banita, you already built us up. You can't pull us down. You already praised us. You told them before that we're the great rabbis come from Israel, and all of a sudden you can't say anything now. And this is purposely planned in order to get to this point. But so he says you can't pull us down. Kvar gadarta, you made this fence. You can't pull it down. In other words, you've got yourself in this predicament now. They're not going to listen to you. Now what we're saying is good because you praised us and you elevated us, and we praised you, so to speak. We came to your yeshiva. You put us on the high pedestal, and now you can't take us down. So he starts crying. So why are you doing this to me? Why is it everything I say is impure, you say is pure? What I forbid, you say is allowed. What is going on here? Why are you doing this to me? What? And now comes the Amrulo, because you calculate, you make these leap years and make the new months in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel. And as we saw before, that's forbidden. You have to be in Eretz Yisrael.
So why do we continue?
We don't. We go according to what the Hillel already predestined, already sanctified by the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael. When we live in Eretz Yisrael, according to, we look at the calendar and we see when Rosh Chodesh is. No, we don't have the witnesses come and say, and we make the calculation. And the Beit Din makes a new Adar. And we have it all written down. We know from the next. And we'll talk about that. We'll see the Rambam. We learned that one. The Rambam, in his positive commandments, these 613 commandments, the book of his commandments, the book of commandments of the Rambam, the 613 commandments from the Torah. In positive commandment number 153, the Rambam at length talks about the significance of the sanctification of the months in the leap year in Eretz Yisrael specifically. And he talks about that even the calculation what we do today is not to make the calculations. We can't do that if we ask. We can't do that in Chutzlar. So what do? We're based on the calculations that were done in Eretz Yisrael, and when the Jews in Eretz Yisrael that live according to the pre-sanctified, so to speak, time that Hillel sanctified, they have to be Jews that now live it, and they bring it down to earth, so to speak. We're living in Eretz Yisrael. We go, he said, the Rambam, all our calendars, whatever, just to know when the Jews in Eretz Yisrael are making that new month. And then the holidays are sanctified throughout the world, whatever. But that's another topic, how that works. It's an amazing thing. But also, the same questions you asked. So he says, why are you doing this to me? He says, because you're calculating the years in the months in Chutz La'aretz. Amar lehem, wait a minute. Halo Akiva ben Yosef haya maber shanim kovei chodeshim b'Chutz La'aretz. Who's that? Who's Akiva ben Yosef?
Rabbi Akiva.
What? Rabbi Akiva. He calls him Akiva ben Yosef. Maybe not so much out of, I don't want to put it, again, this is a giant rabbi we're talking about. The rabbis say that he was the medakdek, he was so meticulous in all the mitzvot, this Rabbi Kanina ben, the nephew of Rabbi Yeshua. So we have to be careful, we're talking about giants. But nevertheless, you see the Gemara here has this, again, what they did to him, how they approached him. So he says, Akiva also did that. He was living, again, not too long, out of the third generation after the murder, the killing of Rabbi Akiva. So he says he also did it. Which is true. And the rabbis say, he explains how that was Rabbi Akiva. There's no other choice. There was no one that could do it. Or that's the next line. But it was impossible to be done. Then it says, the Gemara says, that you're allowed to do it to start. So he says, I also did it under. There's no one. Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef also did these calculations. Did it in Chutz La'aretz. Amrulo Hanach Rabbi Akiva. They call him Rabbi Akiva. Hanach, leave Rabbi Akiva out of this. He left no one like him in Eretz Yisrael. In that case, it can be done outside the land. If there's no one that can do it, it's impossible. Then it can be done. So again, Rabbi Chanina answers them. Doesn't remain. How do you say? Lo nishar chayav. Amar afani lo inachti kemoti be'Eretz Yisrael. I also didn't leave anyone like me in Eretz Yisrael, which is true. It's not some gava haughtiness. He indeed was the great rabbi of that generation. Like I said, the decrees were no one could learn. He was the great scholar, and he left Eretz Yisrael to continue. But he says, I also left no one like me in Eretz Yisrael. He said, that could be, that's true maybe. But these baby, what do they call lambs, that you left have become rams. Gedim she'inachta niyu tayashim. They became like rams with horns. Vehem shigrunu etzlacha. And they sent us to you with a message. We're here under a plan by the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael. Since Adrian died, the rabbis are coming out of their, how do you say, their secret hiding places. Now you can learn Torah again, and now the children that you left, or the young scholars that you left, have now become giants, and now returns the obligation, and therefore they're forbidden to do outside the land of Israel. The obligation to do only in the land of Israel. And they sent us to you with a message, and here's the whole plan now. They revealed to him why they came. And so this is what they said to us. Go and say in our name. Go say to Rabbi Chanina, in our name. Im shomea mutav. If he listens, fine. No, if he stops this legislation that he's usurping, this centrality, what has to be done in Eretz Yisrael, he's officiating that which belongs in Eretz Yisrael. If he stops doing that, really, okay, now I say that. Now you continue doing. Now there's people that can do it. If good, if so, fine. If not, if he refuses to stop and says, "Mapitam, I'm going to have a new Jerusalem. I'm doing it here." Lo, you benidu. He should be excommunicated. Say to the Jews, the community that's with him, Im shomim mutav. If they stop listening to him and go after the courts and the centrality of Eretz Yisrael, fine. Vim lav, listen to this, what they did. What to tell them? Yalu lahar, they should go up to a mountain. Achya yivne mizbeach. Achya, Rashi says, Adam Gadol, he was like the head of the community, the exile there. What do you mean they go to a mountain? Rashi says they go to one of the mountains to make a new altar, to make a new sacrifices, to do your now service to God. Make some altar, go up the mountain. Achia will be a mekam mizbeach, an altar. Hananya, the rabbi that you're going after, Yenagen, he was a Levi. Rashi brings down the sort of he was a Levi. He should play like he did in the Beit Mikdash. Now he should play. You'll have everything. You'll have a new surrogate Judaism. You have a new religion. You should make a new temple. You have this Achia will be the leader. Hananya, or here it's called Hanina. We'll see later. Hanina will go up and be here it's called Hananya. He will go up and now play the harp, whatever. Not the harp, the kinor, the violin.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll go up and you have a new temple. You have a new thing. V'yichapru kulam, and they'll all be atoned for. V'yamru ein lehem chelek b'elokei Yisrael. Go up and say, we have no portion of the God of Israel. What do you mean no portion of God? These are religious Jews following this rabbi. Get up and say, no, what you're doing now is like you have a new religion, Hananiism. You have a new thing. Do the same mitzvot. They look the same. Do the same acts. The same altar and sacrifices. But it's no longer Judaism. It's no longer part of the God of Israel. Because the vehicle of godliness that comes to this world, this energy, this divine truth, is a reality. It's not some fiction that you can make up whatever you think. You serve God, whatever you think, whatever. God made the vehicle that accepts and receives His name and with blessing, and how to serve Him is through the vehicle of the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael. We have a new rabbi, a new scholar, we do this. That's no longer Judah. That's no longer the channel through which God is revealed. You have...
After the class, we play the cheers down to the Chavurah.
Like you have a joke, I don't know, the guy, the Bedouins, he comes invited to the Jewish man's house, and he sees, wow, can I have a glass of water? He goes to the fountain, not the fountain. He goes to the bearers, the... Faucet. An F. He goes to the faucet, opens it up, brings him a glass of water. Wow, that's amazing. How'd you do that? How do you do you have a faucet, and you open it up, and the water comes. So that's great. By me, I have to go out to the well, and it's hot, until I get a glass of water. He says, where'd you get that? He says, in the hardware store, you can get a faucet. And pick one up. It's not that expensive. So he goes to the hardware store, buys a faucet, puts it in his tent, and opens the faucet, and lo and behold...
Water.
Nothing.
No water.
Why no water?
Because he didn't connect it.
No, there's no pipes behind that. You have the faucet. You can say the same faucet, the same mitzvot, the acts, the same hanani. He can play the harp, not the harp. He can play the violin, whatever. But that's not Judaism. That's not the portion of God. That's not the vehicle that God created to bring His name to the world. It's very what? It's very severe. What they did to this rabbi is very embarrassing. Everything he said is forbidden. They said the opposite until they did this down and pulled the whole trick. But why? Because it's so severe, not to forget, like I said, to ensure that it's not forgotten the centrality of Eretz Yisrael. These Jews got to the point that they might have forgotten. So they did this shock treatment, and what happened? Did it work? They all got up and cried. God forbid. We have a portion of the God. They recognized what they had forgotten all these years, having this centrality again of usurping the power, going to outside of Israel, thinking that's what there is. That's Judaism now. That's the vehicle. And again, in case of extreme cases, that was possible and it was true. But when it's no longer true and they continue it, that is the catastrophe here and the danger that the rabbi sent these people there to outside of Israel to wake up the nation. And indeed it worked. And they got up and cried. But the Quran now asks, but how could they do this? This is, again, very shocking. Not just shocking, but halachically problematic, so to speak. The Gemara says, "V'kolkach lama." So why is it so severe? Why this whole treatment? And why just try to explain to him or whatever? Or why is it so severe that bringing Eretz Yisrael? It says in Yeshayahu, "Kim mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Hashem Yerushalayim," because the word of God, Torah goes out from Zion, the word of God from Yerushalayim. That's how it's built. That's the vehicle. If you forget that, It's no longer Judaism. You pick up a new thing. You continue the same acts and put on a kippah and put on tefillin, but it's no longer the same vehicle. That's not that's the faucet without the pipes. The tzino, right? Tzino pipes is Ratzon Hashem. Ratzon Hashem is revealed the way He created and revealed to us. And the Gemara goes on to ask that it makes sense, halachically, they could permissible, you're allowed to, if he legislation was that something was pure, and they said it's tamei, they did it more, more strict legislation. That you're allowed to do. If a rabbi says something, another rabbi can come and be more, let's say, more strict. But there's the Breita says, Chacham shetimei, but a rabbi that makes something tamei, ein chavero rishah letaher. You're not allowed to come afterwards to purify it. If he says something is allowed, and you come and say it's, he says something forbidden, ein chavero rishah letaher. You're not allowed to come and to make it permissible, to be more lenient, because of the rabbis explained that the respect. It's very disrespectful for the previous rabbi. To be more strict, you could say, look, to be sure, to be safer, let's say, to be more strict, but to say the opposite. So first of all, the Vilna Gaon says that it's not like they lied. Like everything he said, they had the opposite just to lie. How can you say that? If something is forbidden, how can they say it's permissible? That makes a destroying point here. It's Israel, so important, so essential. But so the Vilna Gaon explains that it wasn't a clear-cut decision. Like there was, here's how do you say, side for this, reasons for that, and they really felt it was permissible. That what they permitted was indeed, in their opinion, was permissible, even without this plan what to do. But they found that plan, when they found the thing that they found that was permissible, they found reasons that you're allowed to make it allowable. Then they publicized it to make him to do this whole plan to pull him down, so the people shouldn't follow him. But it's not like they lied. They said something to make people eat something that is not kosher. But the Gemara goes on so how do they do this? What's against this usual rule of not embarrassing the person, not of how do you say, to worry about his honor, to disrespect him. The Gemara says ki hecha de lo nigra v'yatei, in order that they shouldn't follow him. The whole plan was indeed to pull down his respect. The whole plan was in order indeed that the people shouldn't follow him, couldn't continue after this rabbi that was going, usurping the centrality, the authority of Eretz Yisrael. And the whole plan was not like here to respect him. Here the whole plan was not to respect him. In other words, that they shouldn't respect him and they shouldn't listen to him. That's the story as given over in the Talmud Bavli. If you turn the sheet 90 degrees, you'll see the version is pretty much the same story. Two different names here, but the same story in the Yerushalmi in the tractate of Nedarim. And I'll tell you now, I don't have time to get to the end, but it's not a happy end to this, again, awesome story. It says, where it's underlined, Ein ma'abrim et hashana b'chutz la'aretz. You're not allowed to, like I said, make these calculations, the new months and the leap years outside of Israel. V'imi brua, and if they did so, einam uber. It's not, even after the fact, it's not considered, how do you say, justified, acceptable. It's not accepted. Some things after you did it after the fact, but the evidence, it's done is done. But here, no. Even after they did it, you don't go by that calendar. You don't go by that new month that they declared. When is that? That is when, there's a condition here, that is when you can do so, when you can make the calculation, when you do the sanctification of the month in Eretz Yisrael. But when it's impossible, then you're allowed to do it outside of the land. And they bring these cases. Yirmiyah, the prophet, Iber b'chutz la'aretz. Yechezkel Iber b'chutz la'aretz. Yechezkel. Baruch ben Neriah, also the student of Yirmiyah, Iber b'chutz la'aretz, outside of the land. Hananya ben Achi Rabbi Yeshua, Iber b'chutz la'aretz. He also did it at chutz la'aretz. This rabbi that we mentioned before. Hananya, the nephew of Rabbi Yeshua, did it in chutz la'aretz. And now the story comes about in this same Hanania. Okay, so what was the case of Hanania doing in Chutz La'aretz? Shalachle, this is in more the Aramaic of the Talmud Yerushalmi. Shalachle, they sent to him, Rabbi, this is Rabbi, they sent to him. There's some people that say the Girsah is Rabbi Gamliel. They sent to him 3 letters, Tlat Igron. They sent 3 letters. Gabe Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Natan. Here the names are these 2 rabbis that they sent to Hanania, was Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Natan. They how do you say, they provided them 3 letters to give to Hanania. Becharaktiv, the Kedushat Hanania. The first letter said, to your holiness, to your excellency, Hanania. A very praising letter, right? They praised him, to your excellency, your not highness, but your greatness as a rabbi, the holy Hanania. The second letter said, Gedaim shi naftan asut hashim. The second letter said, the baby goats that you left behind in Eretz Yisrael have now become like rams. Again, this can be understood. I don't know how it can be understood. In other words, so what are you telling you? What does that mean? So maybe the opposite. These young people that now became rabbis and they're coming to Eretz Yisrael to outside the land to learn by me. You can take that as a praise also. It's not so sure. This second letter. And the third letter says, Im enat mekabel, if you don't receive upon yourself, accept upon yourself, say lecha lemidbar atad, go out to the desert of the Atad, utehei shochet, and you'll be slaughtered there. V'nechonyon zorek, and this other rabbi, this leader of the generation, Nechonyon, will zorek the dan. In other words, you have a new temple. No problem. Make a new Judaism, a new religion. You can take the same ideas, the same altar, and then sacrifice, do everything, put on tefillin, So that's the third letter says that. Like we saw in the Talmud Bavli, but here it's like in 3 letters how they approach him. So now the story unfolds. Kadmita, they give him the first letter. V'ikrun, they give him the first letter and he praises them. And he said, the excellency, your highness, not your holiness, Hanania. So wow, the rabbi of Eretz Yisrael, they give me this letter. These 2 rabbis came to learn by me. So he praises them. He picks them up and makes them, wow, you sit in the front row. Tinyata, the second letter, and he also thinks this is praising him, so he also praises them again. He takes it as a praise that these now young goats are now rams, and they're coming to learn by me. The third letter is less, less ambiguous. There's no way to interpret it. Get up and make a new religion, get up. They give him the third letter. By misraton, he wants to make them smell. He wants to pull them down. Amrin le, they said to him, you can't. Leitat yichil. You already praised us. You already lifted us up. You already made us. We're like these famous rabbis now in your new yeshiva in Bavel, and you can't pull us down. So now we're in this predicament. So now what happens? Kam Rabbi Yitzchak, one of the rabbis from Eretz Yisrael, gets up and starts giving a lecture. Right? What does he do? He already puts them in the front row, and so he starts giving this lecture. Look what he says here. Again, if it wasn't written, I couldn't say it. He starts reading. He takes the Tanakh, and he starts reading in front of the people, the community there. The Kara. K'tiv, it says in the Torah, Eile Moadei Hanania, ben Achi Rabbi Shua. These are the holidays of Hanania, the nephew of Rabbi Yeshua. That's how he starts reading in the Torah. These are the holidays of Hanania. Amrinle, they start screaming at him. Moadei Hashem, it says. What are you talking about? It says these are the holidays of God. What do you mean? What kind of Torah do you have? It says in the Torah, these are the holidays of God, not of Hanania. They say to him, he answers them, Gaban, by us, that's true. We have the holidays of God, but you guys apparently have forgotten that. You have the holidays of Hanania. What I said before, it wasn't my idea. It's new Hananiism. You have a new religion. These are the holidays of Hanania. You want a new religion, you have a new thing, you have a new center, you don't have your... Well, other people said in other places in Europe and the Poland, you have a new Jerusalem. Okay, so you have Hananiism, the holidays of Hanania. But that's in you. But we have Moadei Hashem, but you have Hanania's holidays. The next rabbi, Rabbi Natan, he gets up with Vashlim. He now finishes the sermon. And he starts reading from the Tanakh. From Muncie goes Torah and the word of God from Borough Park. That's what it says here, right? Kimi Bavel tetzeh Torah udvar Hashem minar pakud. Can you imagine a rabbi gets up from Eretz Yisrael? He gets up and he comes to Muncie and he says, "Bemet in New Square." He starts reading them a sermon, gives them a sermon. From Muncie goes out Torah, the word of God from New Square, whatever. That's what it says here, right? Kimi, right, instead of the verse. So they say to him, Mapitam, you're reading it wrong. It says, Ki mitzion, from Zion goes out Torah, the word of God from Yerushalayim, not from Bavel. He says again, or like the priest once said, Gaban, by us that's true. But you guys seem to have forgotten that. You have a new Torah, you have a new center, the word of God from, no, I won't use examples, from the Harpakur, from Bavel. So he went up, this rabbi, he was very insulted here, it's not the rabbi of the community, he went up to Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera in the Tzivim. He went to complain. Look what's going on here, look what these rabbis come from Eretz Yisrael, look what they're doing to me. What blasphemy, what they're making fun of me, they come in and ridicule the people, this is Muncie, we don't have it. What's going on here? Excuse the examples I use, but this is, again, in Bavel, they said, from Bavel will go Torah. So he complained. So this rabbi, Yehuda ben Betera, Amarle acharem, go after them. Their accounting is the best. Because he said to him, maybe look, I'm making a different accounting of when the new months are, in the leap year. It's a whole different calendar. It's ramifications here, very practical ramifications of what's going on. And who says I should listen to them? The commentators you see on the bottom here, the Yerushalmi, the Korban Eidah, explains that who says that we should go after them? Maybe because my accounting is the true thing. I'm the leader. I was making these count. So Rabbi, he says go after them. You have to go after the calculate or the performance or the new months that to establish in Eretz Yisrael and ein lazuz mehem, and not to move from them. So Rabbi Hanana says to him, wait a minute. Amarle, Lina yada mai shavagitaman. Man mudi la de'inun chachamim machshavei tevatei. Who says the ones I left are better than me? Maybe I'm still better than. Who says they're smarter than I am? The chachamim dukvati. Who says they're more than I should listen to them? He says, Mikiva de'inun chachamim machshavei tevatei yishma lahon. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera answers them that different opinions here. He says you're in doubt. You say maybe they're not, maybe they are, but they say they're better. They see that they're already out to do so, and we don't do it in Chutzlaretz. If there's any doubt, we go by the again. If it's impossible to be done in Eretz Yisrael, then it can be done outside the land. But you're already in doubt. You see that there may be possible that they're smart enough to do so. They're allowed the status that they can do these new leap years. So we don't go by you. We go by the calculations in Eretz Yisrael. And Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera got up on his horse. He gets up on his horse and went around the community to tell them the new calendar. I don't know what the new calendar. They went by Eretz Yisrael. If those are making the mistakes, that they should know, go by the calendar of Eretz Yisrael, not by Hanania. Where he got to. Where he didn't get to, they continued in their kilkul. What's kilkul? In there, they went by the wrong calendar. They're celebrating Pesach. They're eating chametz during Pesach, according to their wrong calendar. So where he got to, they didn't have telephones then, or other things that we have today. So they didn't know. They continued the mistaken or the legislation of the Hanania, and they continued in their bad calendars. And we'll see again. Like I said, it's not a happy. But that I won't read you yet. First, the Gemara continues. Now let's give you the second sheet. So, there's another sheet. Are you reading the Hebrew, or do you want another sheet? For those who want, quickly. There's a few more. Ken, you can pass that to those who want to see the original. I'm not making this up. So, the Gemara goes on, right? The Talmud Yerushalmi. The other page, that's part. It says, Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu biyoterim chaverim alayk ziknei agula. That I love the rabbis of the rabbis, the giants of Torah outside of Israel. In spite of that, chaviva alay kat ktana. But I prefer, it is more dear to me, a small group in Eretz Yisrael more than the Sanhedrin Dolah, the great Sanhedrin outside of Israel. Even the rabbis that are worthy to be on the Sanhedrin, if they leave and go to Eretz in Chutzlaretz, then I prefer the small group in Eretz Yisrael rather than the great Sanhedrin outside the land. The source, in the middle source, explains that a little bit. This is in the book Yalkut Eretz Yisrael from Yehuda Tzisling. Anyway, he explains, puts together a few of the Gemara that we saw. It says, this is to say to you, what does it mean the small group is better to prefer to me? When you have rabbis outside the land and giants of Torah, what do you mean it's I prefer the small group in Eretz Yisrael? Perusha Yushalmi means, the Yushalmi is dealing there with this, if you can't make the calculations of the leap years, the new years, and the months in the Chutz La'aretz. And which you don't do so, because it says, from Zayin Gvul Torah, the word of God, from Yerushalayim. L'chein ein marmi, therefore you don't do it outside, Ela b'Beit Din Agadol, Yerushalayim, specifically. You're only allowed to do it in the Beit Din Agadol, in Yerushalayim. And see also Brachot, page 63, which is the source we saw before, the Talmud Bavli. Why you again, the whole story of Hananiah, and what we saw before. That the conclusion was the same thing. We have to do the calculations in Eretz Yisrael. And also see Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. It's an important, very midrash. Pirkei, the chapters of Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, chapter 8. It says there, even if you have tzaddikim and chachamim and wise scholars outside the land, and you have a shepherd, and the shepherd in Eretz Yisrael, the shepherd is also not supposed to be the highest level, so to speak, as opposed to the juxtaposition here. The tzaddikim, you have righteous people and scholars outside the land, or you have the simple shepherd, a simple shepherd, a small simpleton, so to speak, in Eretz Yisrael. You go by the calculation, or you go by the month, the leap years that are the months that are established. The calculation in Eretz, not that they make the calculations, but like I said before, those who live in Eretz Yisrael are the ones who are the faucet. Through them comes this energy, the holiness of the time, and through those in Eretz Yisrael. So the holiday is sanctified, the month is sanctified by those simpletons. In Mabrim, you don't do the calculations except by the shepherd in Eretz Yisrael. Even the midrash. Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer says, even if you have prophets in Chutz La'aretz, people that are worthy of prophecy, there's no prophecy in Eretz Yisrael, outside of Eretz Yisrael. Moed Katan, 25, the Gemara and Mechil Telbo, there's no prophecy outside the land of Israel, no revealed Shekhinah. But people that are worthy of prophecy, the Gemara talks about Moed Katan, the people that were worthy of prophecy. So why didn't they have? They were in Bavel. This is Bavel Gama. The fact that they're outside of Israel prevented them from receiving prophecy. Again, that's the vehicle that enables this two pieces of metal that conduct the Jewish people, land of Israel. That's the way God, this conductivity of godliness, of holiness, of divine energy, of light, of goodness that comes to this world. That's the vehicle He created. You have to take a piece of plastic, nice piece of plastic. It looks well, means well, but it doesn't conduct. You have these prophets that are worthy of prophecy, but they're outside the land, and you have here it says, Hidyotim, simpletons in Eretz Yisrael. But rather it goes through the simpletons in Eretz Yisrael. And now this rabbi explains. This is what it says in the Yerushalmi that is more dear to me. A small group in Eretz Yisrael, greater than the Sanhedrin, that is the great Sanhedrin outside of Israel. And this is true. Why? It seems to me to explain that it is known that the Ishkar Hashrat HaShechina V'Itgalut HaElukut Rak Be'eretz Yisrael. The flowing, the presence of the divine presence, revealed Shechina, which is what we call prophecy, and the manifestation of godliness, Galut, Gilu Hashem, the manifestation of godliness in this world is only through Eretz Yisrael. Kisham Beito, there is His house, Bashchina Choneh, and there the Shechina dwells. That's how He built it, not from God's point of view. God isn't only in Eretz Yisrael, but how we can receive, how we can, like we mentioned, there's sound waves all over the room, but you need an antenna, a radio, or an ear to pick up the sound waves. Aren't only in our ear, but the ear is that which enables to receive those sound waves, the godliness that is above time and space, any limitations, but that which receives it for our world is the Jewish people in Israel. So He said, the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, for there the Shekhinah dwells in Eretz Yisrael. As it says in Midbar Rabba, Mitzion Tetzet Torah, and therefore, since the Jews are now in the land of Israel, loving the land and refusing to leave it even when it's destroyed, Mashreh Shekhinah, that God rests His presence, His dwells in the Shekhinah, in the Holy Land, because Israel and our God, so to speak, are one. They're the unit that they enable, like I said, the two pieces of metal, that godliness, and through the Kutsha Brich Hushchinte, that God's presence revealed to the Jewish people. Loke, not so, if they will not be, God forbid, Jews in Eretz Yisrael, in the Holy Land. Al mi yishreh, for upon who will He rest His presence? Al eitzim v'avanim, on sticks and stones. It will be like someone who has no vehicle, no pipe to reveal Himself through. There's no vehicle, no receptacle to receive that godliness in this world. The world will be out. That the Chatam Sofer, we explained one at length. That's the end of the Torah, the end of the Rambam. Very strong words also. That would be the end of the Torah, the end of all. The end of the world. There's no bridge to bridge the gap between the divine, the infinite, and the finite. There's no receptacle to receive it. So on who? On sticks and stones? That's not the vehicle. You don't have the heart. Don't. So let the leg receive the life, and it will spread. It doesn't work that way. It's built that way that the heart is what receives the blood, so to speak, and spreads it to the rest of the limbs. Really, as you know, Eretz Yisrael is the lave of the nations, the lave of the heart of the nations, the world. It's Eretz Yisrael. So without the heart, there's no replacement, so to speak. And therefore he says, who will God rest his the Khatam Sofer writes in the response to literature to You're there. We learned this one, 234. That if, God forbid, there be no Jews in Eretz Yisrael, that would be the end of the Torah, the end of everything, the end of ultimately the world. There be no. But God promised us, he based it on the Rambam, when he explains the Rambam in that mitzvah 153 that I said to you, that the Rambam says this, if there's no Jews in Eretz Yisrael, and then he says this parenthetical remark, but God forbid that will never, God promises it never be, because God promises that it will never, would be totally destroyed, the nation of Israel. And he goes on and talks about what but he said the parenthetical remark that God promises he would never destroy the Jewish people, therefore there will all be Jews in Eretz Yisrael. So the Khatam Sofer, what do you mean? There's another option. You could have Jewish people outside of Israel. It's not the end of the Jewish people. You have Jews in America. They'll come back ultimately, whatever, but the Jewish people are still alive. There's no Jews in Israel. Okay, so you have now the vehicle of the accepting of godliness, the nation of Israel, is now outside of the land. And when they come back, not the end of the Jewish people. Why do you mean there's no Jews here, that's the end of the Jewish people? So the Khatam says, yes, it explains at length what we explain, how indeed the vehicle is the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, not just Jews in the world. That's the vehicle. The Rambam says in the commentary to the Mishnah in Bechorot, chapter 4, Mishnah 3, that if you have 10 Jews in Eretz Yisrael, God calls them only 10 Jews. Now this piece of metal that conducts, receives God, the ear of the world is now limited to 10 Jews. That's the nation of Israel. And God called them the entire nation, the Kol HaKahal. And you don't take into consideration all the Jews outside the land. This is well, you have to know the nation. And the different laws that we mentioned this at length. We'll get to it again maybe. How the nation is defined by the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara in Horayot, page 3a, the Talmud Bavli. That if you have to know who the nation is for the certain paralim davar, the certain sacrifice, if the nation makes a mistake, who's the nation? The Jews in the world. You take a census of all the Jews in the world. Who's the majority? No, the majority of the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because that's considered the nation. That's called the nation of Israel. That's the vehicle, not just the quantity of Jews. That qualitative essence of Jewish souls in the land of Israel. That is this conduit that God created. The Rama also says that you don't take into consideration. You don't count the Jews outside the land. For these laws, again, they're Jews, rabbis, scholars. The Rambam himself is outside for a certain time. But the vehicle that for the nation to know, when you have to know who the nation is for certain laws and certain spiritual also essences, like we're talking about here, that metaphysical receptacle of godliness for the world, that goes by the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. And even 10 Jews. If there's only 10 Jews, that's the vehicle. That's a sad situation, that the world is now living by a thread, so to speak. The whole world is connection of worldliness and godliness and is now bridging the gap, these 10 Jews, which is a blessing for the world that these exist. Although the Khatam Sofer talks about the time when there were 52 years during the exile, the Babylonian exile, that there were no Jews here, but there was a Sanhedrin that was from Eretz Yisrael that was continuing this energy level outside the land, but they couldn't pass it on. It doesn't go on. It's another story. I can't get to that all now. So here he says how, therefore, there's no Jews in Eretz Yisrael. That he was how there's no vehicle to receive his presence. Therefore, lechein shapir. Therefore, it says very properly so that it's endeared to God, or is more endeared to Him, more precious to Him. That's the good word. It's precious to me. The small group in Eretz Yisrael, because that enables more greater than a Sanhedrin Gedolah Chutza, because I need these 10 people, these small group, these even peasants. They're the ones that keep the world alive, that keep my name, the ideal of all of creation, to continue and to enable this blessing to the world. The bottom part you can read later to yourselves, the unhappy ending of, so to speak, this story of descendants, the punishment that what took place to the descendants of Rabbi Chanina this Chanina that left Eretz Yisrael and continued, not just left Eretz Yisrael, and continued usurping the centrality, and continued even after he heard that now it's returning to Eretz Yisrael. And he continued. So there they descended because there's no forgiveness. It's like the sin, like the Meshech Chochmah, the Ortzanach writes, that the sin of the, we've just written the parsha, the sin of the golden calf, God forgave them, but the sin of the spies, God didn't forgive. He said there was no forgiveness. Because it's a reality. It's not a matter of mercy. You take a certain poison, it causes damage. There was a certain poison that was caused by this Hananiah. It went to the generations that were apparently absorbed in the generations after him, his descendants, so much so that it caused a certain affliction that took place. Because it's so severe. But the message for us is to remember, even when it's impossible, even when it's not impossible, even when it's difficult to come, or we forget, not to lower the standards, not to lower the, we can't come, now we do the best. Like we said, right, the Los Angeles Times, there's nothing Orthodox Jew needs that isn't here. Now this is what we have. We have Kashrut, we have Shabbat, we have everything we need here. So to make an ideal out of the tragedy, now maybe you can't go back. There were times we couldn't come back, not today, but there are times we couldn't come back in the situation, but not to forget where you belong, not to lower the standards. Because when you lower the standards, then the time will come when you can go back and you can fulfill. You have the test, 100%. 100% for the test is difficult. So let's tell your children, no, just try to get for 50. But if you get 50 as the goal now, then also you won't get to 50, because once you lower the standards, you perpetuate this mediocrity, that you lower the standards. Now this is the goal. No, that's hard. To remember the goal, the ideal is Eretz Yisrael. And I mentioned this also, I don't have time, but maybe next time. We'll continue. Remember the ideal, the center, where, and how lucky we are to be part of that.